Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, my friends, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope everybody's having a great day. I know I am. I've got so much news for you. Lots of accountability. FBI raids. People getting indicted. Lots of really good things happening. All right, if you guys are out there and you are hearing my voice, please do me a favor and hit that like button. So the way people think about retirement is changing. For years, it was pretty simple. You just bought stocks, bonds, and you hope that the market did its job over time. But with everything that's happening in the economy today, rising inflation, global uncertainty, some investors are starting to realize that they might need a more diversified approach. And that's where assets like crypto and precious metals are really starting to come into the conversation. Not as speculation, but as a way to make a thoughtful allocation as part of a long-term strategy. So with a crypto IRA with My Digital Money, you can now invest in both crypto and precious metals using a structured retirement account. Your assets are going to be kept in cold storage, so they're offline and protected from any online threats, and they're also held with a regulated U.S. custodian and supported by a U.S.-based team, people you can actually talk to. So if you want to know how it works, find out by going to mydigitalmoney.com, or you can just click the link below, or you can even give them a call, and they will speak English. 833-636-2008. And if you want to ask about their promotion on how you can get up to $200 based on your investment, just enter RedPill78 in the promo code field when you see it on the website to be eligible. And when you support my sponsors, you support this channel.
And I said, I hate to do this, but we have to make an excursion down to Iran because we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Look, and this is very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon because as tough as they are, we want to keep them alive. We want to keep all of you alive. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't. And they've agreed to that, among other things. Yeah. And I said, I hate to do this, but we have to.
All right, so apparently I was muted on YouTube. YouTube, can you confirm for me now that you can hear me? I'm back. Okay. All right. So part of the problem is that I have many different methodologies to go to all of these different sites because they accept different qualities of video. And I got it figured out. I know exactly what needs to happen. All right. So yesterday we heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio as he was moonlighting for Caroline Leavitt that the operation in the Iranian space was done. President Trump today confirms that they have agreed to not have nuclear weapons. That's been the one thing President Trump throughout the entirety of his career, both before and after he got involved in politics. He said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. So there it is, folks. We're going to go ahead and get to the bottom of it, and all of this will be over very, very soon. Now, this is kind of a post apropos of nothing, but I saw it, and it was an official graphic that was created by Black Lives Matter, and I don't think that they really understood what they were saying when they put this out. So what you have here is a pie chart on the left and then another pie chart on the right. You have U.S. population on the left, and then you have percentage of crimes committed by the ethnic groups that Black Lives Matter is pointing out over here on the left. So what you have is 87% of the U.S. population, which comprises whites, Hispanics, Asians, and then Native Americans. So then, of course, the other 13% or so is going to be Black Americans. And then on the right, in terms of 2019 crime statistics, it shows that 48% of all crimes are committed by whites, Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans. In other words, 87% of the American population is committing 48% of the crimes. But on the flip side, the obverse of this data, it also means that 13% of the U.S. population is committing 52% of the crimes. This is nothing to brag about, and I can't believe that Black Lives Matter put this information out there. They even cite the crime statistics. This is coming from the FBI's own information. It's true, and it's very unfortunate, but it does not make the case that Black Lives Matter is seeking to make. I mean, of course, 87% of the American population, regardless of race, is going to commit a certain number of crimes, but they commit less than half of the crimes committed by 13% of the population. And maybe they did understand what they were doing because they don't label this sliver over here, this 13%, as Black America, but that is who they are. Now, of course, a lot of people would look at this and say, look, this proves that blacks are, all blacks are bad. Okay, well, that's obviously not what I'm saying. But we know it's very clear that there is a cultural disparity and a racial disparity between the percentage of crimes committed and the people who are committing them. And that is a question to be answered on another day. But I just saw this. I couldn't believe that they put it out because it doesn't look good. So anyways, thank you, Black Lives Matter, for, I guess, proving a point. All right, now, we are also now going to begin with several incredible advertisements for Spencer Pratt and his mayoral campaign in the city of Los Angeles because they just keep getting better and better and better. So first of all, let's go ahead and look at this. It was posted by Latinos for Pratt.
Please, I'm begging you. There's homeless drug addicts in front of the schools. My children aren't safe.
Look, if you were a transgender migrant, I could get you a free pussy.
Let's move the drug addicts closer.
Bass already solved crime. I endorse her.
Next!
please. I just want to rebuild my home. It's been over a year.
Mom, look!
This is a machine. If we want to burn this town to the ground, pull through that!
I feel so close.
You can do it, Spencer!
Now.
So obviously that's AI. A lot of people will not like that. But again, this is the kind of thing that I really appreciate the use of artificial intelligence for. Now, here is another ad from Spencer Pratt's campaign. This time, it's a series of news clips about the declining quality of life for Angelenos. And clearly this is something that Spencer is hoping to address if he does become mayor. Now, he is actually at the top of the field. Now, of course, they have a jungle primary. I'm pretty sure, most of these other states that have, multiple people running for multiple parties within the primary, somebody has to get to 50%. We'll see if Spencer gets to 50%. If not, then he'll have to go into a runoff. But he's gained more popularity and more share of likely votes than either the current mayor, Karen Basura, or Nithya Raman, who is a former employee of Karen. Let's go ahead and look.
Los Angeles losing tens of thousands of residents, one of the biggest population drops in the nation.
Everyday life is just becoming unsafe.
One of the most dangerous streets in all of Los Angeles, and now
man killed near the LA Convention Center. Billions in homeless funds were poorly tracked.
It's far more sexy to talk about all these billions of dollars that are missing and blah, blah, blah.
And it's impacting businesses.
Thinking about selling or closing my business.
Lost my job, lost my business.
Are struggling to stay open because of all the devastation.
Business as usual is a death sentence for Los Angeles.
They have lost 50% of their business.
A whole lot of stores are being closing down here locally.
Unfortunately, business has been fairly slow.
It's crazy.
Dozens of restaurants across LA closing shop this year.
You never know what's going to happen to you.
The system in Los Angeles isn't struggling, it's fundamentally broken.
The city failed everyone. The insurance companies failed everyone.
Mothers that want to go to the park, that don't want to inhale fentanyl smoke from the 70,000 drug addicts that the mayor currently lets live on our streets.
Drugs and prostitutes while walking their kids to class.
Angelenos are done.
And it's a humanitarian disaster.
We have 6 people dying every day in the streets. Over 100 restaurants just in LA have closed in the last year. Everyone is done.
More and more restaurants across the city, new and old, are going out of business.
They did everything possible to keep their doors open.
Several businesses along the famed Sunset Strip have closed in recent months.
After 16 years of business,
Restaurants really are struggling.
closing on March 31st. They shut down earlier this month, closing after 3 years of business, shut their doors permanently by the end of the month.
We, the business owners, are being hit so hard. They say they have absolutely no idea what their future holds.
Laying off employees and closing stores.
We're not backfilling positions. We're not growing in the state anymore.
Worst case scenario, you just said that you may have to shut down.
Stepping on fentanyl needles, human poop, everything smells like pee. It is disgusting.
The number of people who die every day on our streets gets worse.
All over LA, there's people with just fentanyl smoke blowing next to swing sets in every park. This is psycho.
Dogs that are neglected, abused, and sometimes set on fire.
Fighting to survive after being set on fire in South Los Angeles.
A 1-year-old shepherd mix set on fire.
Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them?
If you're not shocked by what you see, then I don't know what you would be shocked by.
Just giving you needles and pipes on the street and dropping off a sandwich is not helping these people.
It's far more sexy to talk about all these billions of dollars that are missing and blah, blah, blah.
If you read what was on screen there, you read that correctly. Roughly $277,000 per homeless person is spent in the city of Los Angeles. That quite literally means that if you were to give $277,000 to every single homeless individual, that person would undoubtedly be able to get themselves off the streets. I mean, at the very least, they would be able to rent an apartment. They could most likely buy a home in many different areas. But the state of Los Angeles is absolutely shocking and dismal. We have one more ad that came out yesterday morning that I wanted to show. So let's go ahead.
The thing I am concerned and feel about him is that I feel like he's exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades. And I think that's
right.
Reprehensible. He is about his own celebrity. He's famous now again.
Don't run with that. I'll be right there.
I gotta go
Oh my gosh, that's good.
How are you?
I'll throw it in the trash. I don't need a new one. We're gonna go to dinner.
Yeah, good. Good. No trouble?
So emotional. I can like hardly breathe.
Well, it is pretty cool. it's better than just dirt.
Oh, Spencer, this is beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
Nice.
How are you enjoying your new rental? That's what I thought. Okay, well.
Oh God, so emotional. I feel like all I do is cry.
You do. Well, I understand why.
I just really wish we could have sold our lot and bought a house in Santa Monica on Montana. So I really wish. The Palisades is just so depressing.
It'll be a lot easier to sell a house you build on a lot than selling just a lot. So there's way more chance for it to buy a brand new, nobody's lived in house than a dirt lot. So if that's what you decide in a year, it's way more chance to sell that than dirt.
Yeah, because the Palisades isn't going to come back for a long time. And it's so depressing. I've got to pull myself together.
I don't think you're gonna go. There's no way. It's not. Nobody's supposed to be dealing with what you're dealing with at your age. At any age, but I don't think you need to have the pressure of pulling yourself together. I think you can cry all you want.
Thank you.
Whatever gets you through the day.
I love you so much.
He is about his own celebrity.
You just gotta breathe.
He's famous now again.
So the things that they have allowed to take place in Los Angeles, none of this is by accident. It's all by design. The money that flows into that city obviously is not being used to assist homeless people. It's not being used to help them get off the street. It's not being used to improve their quality of life. It's going into the campaign accounts of people like Karen Bass. It's going into the personal bank accounts of the people running the NGOs and the 501c3s. It's being used to pay for more drugs, more junk food, buying tents to keep people on the streets, helping to keep people caught in a cycle of drugs, abuse, human trafficking, violence. It's a complete and utter shit show. And you know, you could say what you want about, you know, how Spencer Pratt has lived his life, but this is the first time, I think, in my lifetime that California, not just Los Angeles, has an opportunity to finally maybe move beyond this cycle that it's been caught in. The governor's race is really heating up. The mayor's race, obviously, is looking to be something very, very different. And in the last couple of days, they've had, I guess they're hosting a series of debates. I think CNN did it. They did a debate with all of the California gubernatorial candidates. Katie Porter is one of those people. And Katie Porter was the woman I've shown you a number of times before. She freaked out on her aide who was stepping into her Zoom call, where she said, you know, get out of my effing shot. She said it while she was live on a program with somebody. Katie Porter used to be a representative. She was forced to leave because there were some major questions about inappropriate things happening in her office. In the last couple of days, during the course of this debate that they were having for the gubernatorial race, Katie Porter attempted to address the issues that she's had in the past. And I don't know who's running her campaign, but they're not doing a particularly good job. She has not done anything to really separate herself from the reputation that she has. And I point this out because a lot of people have suggested, well, now that Eric Swalwell's not in the gubernatorial race, Democrats are just going to vote for Katie Porter. I don't think that's necessarily true. Of course, there is always the all-pervasive question of election fraud. That has not been addressed yet. But Katie Porter, I do not believe, is going to be somebody that a lot of people are going to go out and just organically vote for. Now, in this exchange that we're going to watch, well, first of all, let's watch some of Katie Porter's best hits in case you don't remember.
Oh, yes. This is why I didn't want to I need the lights off, the bright lights. I'm so sorry, but I am about to get on. Bernard, I need you to turn these off.
Lights off?
These that are killing me. Hang on one second, everybody.
No, we should put the computer up on it.
Yes, we should have. Yes. Okay, everybody. I'm not that dark.
It's too dark.
Just a minute. Okay, everybody, I'm sorry about that. I am in a TV studio getting ready to go on Cuomo. And so I had all those studio lights on me and I couldn't see myself or see you guys.
Okay, now, not so bad. She looks like a tolerable person. But of course, there is always the question of when Katie Porter is going to blow up. Now, what was really interesting is that I do think she understands how this has damaged her, because in the course of the debate, I think it made her feel like she couldn't step in and say anything because she's got this reputation of being a real bitch. Okay. And the last thing you want as a woman running for office is for people to say, I don't want to vote for that bitch. But during the course of the debate, when she was confronted about this, she actually almost started to cry. And I do think that that was a ploy because Katie Porter is not a emotional person in that way. Remember, her husband divorced her because she poured a pot of boiling potatoes over his head. She abused him verbally and physically in front of their children to the point where the children started to call him the same names that she was calling him.
That highlighted your opponent here, Congresswoman Katie Porter, threatening to cut off an interview with a reporter. That came after a video surfaced of her berating a member of her staff. If a senior official in your government acted as she did in those videos, would you fire them?
Yes.
And you've put out an ad of your own, now making light of that interaction that you had with your
That's
staffer.
not correct, Caitlin.
Which you said you apologized for.
That is not correct.
Let's actually watch that ad real quick, because she actually does make light of that. And this is, again, why I asked, I wonder who the hell is running her campaign, because this is not a good look.
I'm Katie Porter, and I'm not like most people who run for governor. I actually get what you're going through. A single mom of 3 kids, I know what it's like to push the shopping cart.
A single mom of 3 kids whose husband left you because you're a domestic abuser.
My minivan has almost 200,000 miles. I have a grown kid who may soon be living on my couch. To give Californians what they need, it's going to take standing up to Donald Trump, calling out greedy corporations, and stepping on some toes along the way. Now, could you guys please get out of my shot?
Could you guys please get out of my shot? That's not endearing. And also, all of the problems that she mentions, going after Trump, standing up to corporations, none of these things have anything to do with why California is quite literally a cesspool of slime and villainy.
The ad is about showing Californians what they've had a chance to see on this stage tonight and in every other debate stage that we've had, which is that I'm able to take responsibility, I'm able to follow the rules, I'm able to say I'm sorry, and I'm able to do better. Everybody in California had a chance to see me on stage with that reporter in the last debate and see exactly.
What about the one where she was on stage with that reporter when she said that she was not going to answer tough questions about her campaign? She said that she doesn't need the support of any Trump voters, even though obviously she's in this jungle primary. There's a lot of people who supported President Trump in the state of California, and not necessarily all of them are going to vote for a Republican candidate because it's the jungle primary. But Katie Porter here now tries to position herself as if, you know, this softer, gentler version of this monster that Californians in America have come to know over the last several years.
Exactly how I conducted myself. Californians can decide for themselves about my temperament based on what they've seen here tonight. And if these boys bullying and bickering hasn't been enough to raise questions about their temperament, I would really challenge that. I have taken responsibility at this point hundreds of times, and that's appropriate because I made a bad decision and I treated someone badly. I apologized 5 years ago for it, and we worked together for 4 more years. What I haven't heard is the people on this stage who have made other bad decisions and other mistakes and other failures of leadership.
Like Xavier Becerra, who's currently in the midst of a major corruption scandal in the state of California. It's a national scandal. We've reported on it here before. When he went to an appointment for the Biden administration, he brought his former aide with him and then illegally paid him an additional salary over and above the federal salary from his campaign account, which was totally illegal, both at the state and the federal level.
Not one of them, not one of these men have said in this entire campaign, I've made a mistake, not for not being able to account for undocumented children who wound up in child labor. You called that MAGA talking points and a hoax, Mr. Becerra. I could go down the line. I don't even want to waste my time on this. I just want to say to California, I have taken responsibility. I have shown that. And what that ad is about, Caitlin, is about showing that I can laugh at myself, I can hold myself to account, and I have the fitness, the temperament, and the best ideas to be governor. And everybody's had a chance to see now in 3 debates how.
Thank you, Congresswoman Porter.
Yeah, she really doesn't, though, have the temperament to be the governor of California. So I predict that Katie Porter is not going to be the gal. All right, now, I also wanted to give a bit of an update on what's happening with the Hoft brothers. We had a stroke in one Hoft brother and then a open heart surgery in the other Hoft brother. And both of them are now seemingly recovering really, really well. So I believe it was Jim Hoft who needed the heart surgery, and then Joe Hoft who had a stroke while he was waiting for his brother Jim to have that surgery. Now, initially it was reported that Joe was completely paralyzed on the left side of his body. Here he is in this image. He's using a walker to get around, but you can tell he's not completely paralyzed. Jim, that heart surgery happened. It's gone very, very well. He is recovering, and it's their other brother who has written this article. I'm sorry, no, it's actually Jim writing the article from his hospital bed. But there was, I guess, a broken valve in Jim's heart, and that's why they had to get it fixed. And then there was also sepsis that developed while he was in the surgery. Now, Joe was on his way to go meet and be with Jim during the course of that surgery, and he had a stroke. I don't know that they've determined exactly, how it happened or why it happened. But at the very end of the day, what's good is that they are both recovering, and just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that because we talked about that previously. Also, thank you to Sando-san for that gifted subscription to Jake Gigolo over there on Rumble. Appreciate you. Sean Joe, my brother from another mother, thank you for the cookie over there on Pilled. Boys Blanc, thank you for the cookie. Thank you for another cookie. Thank you, Filter Dog, who says, Thomas Victor taught me about GCC. What is GCC? I don't know GCC, but I do know Thomas Victor. And then Classical Chick says, like, share, hit, and crunch. You sound excited. So much happening. There is a lot happening. Now, you may remember, I think it was several weeks ago, the suggestion was brought up that a foreign power, an ally, or perhaps even an adversary of the United States, had reached out, made an overture to the United States government, letting them know that they had a full copy of Hillary Clinton's insecure, private bathroom email server that previously was running out of her Chappaqua, New York home. Well, Kash Patel appeared with Sean Hannity on his podcast last night, and he was asked about this, and he doesn't give an affirmation, but the non-answer is the answer. Take a listen.
They didn't go this deep in the weeds as we did. So we can start with Hillary Clinton, top secret classified information on her servers, which, by the way, I keep hearing rumors, maybe you can confirm this, that information may still exist and we may have a copy. Any truth to that?
We're working on a lot of things.
You're smiling. I don't know. I like that smile. The smile is very revealing, Kash. All right. We'll save that for a different show.
Boys, we got him. If there was no server, if there was no possibility of recovering that data, then Kash Patel would have easily been able to answer that question. But he didn't answer the question. Now, we've talked about Hillary's crimes on so many different occasions. We know that Hillary's crimes, that server plays directly into the beginning of the grand conspiracy to destroy President Trump, his first term in office, to put him into prison when he was out of office, and then even to continue once he came back into power. This is obviously an ongoing and developing story. We will continue to follow it as it develops. Very, very excited about that. All right. Now, continuing here, we also have a new and exciting development coming out of the FBI's press office in the state of Virginia. Early this morning, the FBI and the DOJ launched a raid on the office of Virginia Democrat Senate President pro tempore L. Louise Lucas. Now, this is in conjunction with a major corruption probe, and this is not a new investigation. This investigation actually began under the Biden administration. It was being run out of the Eastern District of Virginia. And if you'll remember, several months ago, when Lindsay Halligan was still the U.S. attorney at the Eastern District of Virginia, there was a U.S. attorney working underneath her, an assistant U.S. attorney, who was slow-walking a series of investigations. Well, that same assistant U.S. attorney is the reason that this investigation never came to fruition under the Biden regime. So early this morning, federal agents served multiple search warrants that were all approved by a federal judge at L. Louise Lucas's office, but also at the cannabis dispensary that she owns, which is directly next door to her office. Louise L. Lucas, or L. Louise Lucas, is a very close ally of no current governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, and Staffers were told to come outside while the FBI carried out boxes. Lucas is associated with a number of cannabis dispensaries throughout Virginia, and the federal agents also raided those very same cannabis dispensaries. Now, the raids on the dispensaries were a little bit more hardcore than the raids on her office. Weapons were drawn, people were brought out, they were handcuffed. 3 people from the cannabis dispensary were actually taken into custody, and dozens of boxes from all of these locations were taken out as well. Here is the coverage from this morning before they knew much about what was going on. Now, when I mentioned L. Louise Lewis's title, there's the president pro tempore of the Virginia Senate. And again, of course, she is a Democrat. She is one of the highest ranking and most powerful senators in the Virginia State Senate. And she is one of the most powerful Democrats in the state of Virginia.
The FBI here telling us today that these are court-authorized criminal search warrants that they are issuing, and they're going into the building behind me. This is the office here in Portsmouth of State Senator Louise Lucas. You can likely see some of the FBI agents behind me. All of the staffers inside this building were told to come outside. I could hear them saying that they were not allowed back in the building. Throughout the last hour, we've been seeing the FBI come and go carrying boxes out of the building. Now, just across the parking lot next to where I am, there is a cannabis dispensary. We know that the state senator is associated with several cannabis locations and dispensaries. And what we're seeing there, a completely different scene carrying out. SWAT teams arrived with their weapons drawn, telling anyone in the building to come out of the building with their hands up. We also saw at least 3 people being taken away, taken into custody. First, they were put in handcuffs, put on the ground, and then they were taken away. So it's a slightly less large presence than we did see earlier, but there still is a good amount of FBI agents still here on the ground. Also, what happened within the last hour, the Senator Lucas arrived here herself. I was able to speak with her. I asked her what her reaction was to all of this. She told me she had no idea what they were doing here. I asked her about the different locations that they might be. She, in response, asked me what locations the FBI were at today. We know, according to officials, at least 10 locations are being looked at today. The FBI...
Damn, at least 10 locations of her medical marijuana dispensaries. Now, I need to give a big shout out to my boy Lucas. First of all, Jake. I need to give a big shout out, not Louise. I need to give a big shout out to my boy Jake, the son of Jess Koch. Jess says, Zach, my 7-year-old son shot his first turkey at 7:40 a.m. today with his 410. 9-inch beard, 25-yard shot. He is still on cloud 9. His name is Jake, and he would love a shout out. He's such an amazing kid, and you would make his day. Let me just say, good job, Jake, on bagging that turkey. I bet you it's going to be the best tasting turkey that you've ever had. I want to know how your parents are going to prepare it. Are you guys going to smoke it? Are you going to fry it? There's so many different ways that you can make this wonderful. I want to know, maybe, are you planning on having it mounted? I mean, it is your first turkey, so congratulations, Jake. Big thumbs up to you. Continue to shoot straight, lad. I absolutely love it. Good for you, son. All right. Now, also need to say thank you to Artsy Joan, who says, Indiana gives me hope that elections just might be secured. Zach, you are the best, and I hope you're still enjoying your dog's portrait. We absolutely are. It is hanging in our living room, Joan. Thank you so much. God bless you, Lisa, and your furry friends. I appreciate you so much, Joan. Yes, I am very happy about what happened in Indiana as well. Now, we have a little bit more information. It would appear that these raids are directly tied to allegations of bribery, which are here at these medical marijuana dispensaries. And again, this corruption probe began under the Biden administration. So you have a lot of Dems who are saying, oh, this is weaponization. President Trump is going after Democrats in key states. But it all started under Joe Biden's Department of Justice. So again, we have Louise Lucas's office, 10 of her medical marijuana dispensaries, including the one directly right next door to her office, all raided after a federal judge was given evidence by the FBI and the DOJ, totally signed off on the warrants in this instance. You're going to see in this image right here in the bottom half of the video, this is the FBI arresting some of the employees at one of these 10 different medical marijuana dispensaries. Here we go.
We're back with some breaking legal news this morning. The FBI is searching the office of a Democrat in the Virginia State Senate, Louise Lucas. That's according to Fox News, citing federal law enforcement sources. She is a party leader who was instrumental in the Virginia redistricting effort. MS Now senior investigative reporter Carol Lenig is following this. Carol, what have you learned about this investigation?
So Louise Lucas is a state, fairly prominent legislator in her state, but not known nationally. And the FBI and the Department of Justice have been investigating her for several years, 3 years, I'm told by a source familiar with the probe. And that investigation has been looking at evidence suggesting that she solicited or accepted bribes.
We're back with some breaking legal news.
So, solicited or accepted bribes. Once you start taking bribes, you're going to end up soliciting bribes. Louise is not going to be in a very good position. Now, this goes a little bit further because not only is Louise a medical marijuana dispensary owner, not only is she the president pro tempore of the Virginia Senate, not only is she a high-ranking Democrat official in the state directly tied to the current governor, she also owns a company called Lucas Lodge LLC. Now, this ties into the Medicaid business that we've been talking about. They are a Medicaid waiver service for the disabled, and they are also a medical transportation company. If you'll remember, there has been quite a bit of fraud in the medical transportation industry and Medicaid as a whole. And the thing about Louise's business, Lucas Lodge LLC, their Medicaid funding has been given since 2005, so they've got ample time to go back and look at the history of this company, but they've had over 217 violations. And from online records with the state of Virginia, they've taken in over $5 million in revenue. She also bought up an entire block of homes in a Virginia neighborhood, and all of these homes are billing Medicaid services. You have one Google review for the company, but you have zero evidence that any employees exist at this company except Louise and her two daughters. Now, in the instance of full disclosure, there have also been 9 deaths with Lucas Lodge only since 2019. And there have been 143 reports of serious incidents with injury that have occurred at Lucas Lodge homes. So it's very likely that we're going to see this DOJ FBI probe expand beyond these medical marijuana dispensaries and perhaps into the Medicaid aspect of Louise's business as well. So again, a very exciting development, and I will be following this with great attention. Now, continuing on with a little bit of information about fraud, President Trump confirmed that Tim Walz is under federal investigation by J.D. Vance and his fraud task force. Let's take a listen.
And as you know, Tom Emmer is the House Majority Whip, and he's a fantastic person, real leader. Comes from an interesting place, a place that's under investigation by our great Vice President. They're finding a lot, and Tom Emmer was one of the biggest complainers about what was going on in Minnesota and lots of other places. I also want to say a special thank you to the many moms among our fans.
So as we also know, as the CMS attempts to get information from the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison and Tim Walz are actively suing the federal government, trying to stop them from gaining access to those details. Of course, nothing is going to stop the fraud task force from coming in and getting all of the details that they need to bring these people to justice. Now, before we continue, I have a very quick message from our friends over on Rumble. Parents, grandparents as well, you guys know it is time for a bit of real talk because America's about to hit a major milestone. We are coming up on the 250th birthday of our beautiful country. 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever seen. And that means this is the perfect opportunity to teach your kids and help them understand about why this country matters. Not just the glitz and the glam, but the things that really, really count. All of the underlying ideas that mean America is something special. This is all going to be done with something called the Free Kids Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's a great way to teach those kids about how this country began, about the founding fathers, who they were, what they were risking when they signed that Declaration of Independence, and why those ideas they fought for then still matter today. The guide is going to send them back to the very moment when they signed pen to paper, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It's going to break it all down in a way that is very easy to understand, but more importantly, they're going to enjoy it. It's not going to water it down or turn it into boring schoolwork. So if you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you're going to want to grab. And the best part is that it is completely free with this special offer. All you pay is $2 for the shipping and handling. Just head on over to freeusabirthday.com. Once again, that is freeusabirthday.com. And the Kids Guide to America's 250th Birthday is there for your kids today, because America's story matters. Make sure that the next generation knows it. Thank you very much to them. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says the GCC is the Gulf Cooperation Council. Soldiers from Arab countries. Trump has worked so hard to bring the GCC together on Iran. Oh, okay. In that case, I understand what you're talking about. And yes, sir, you are absolutely correct. All right. Now, let's now talk about the biggest story of the day, which is something that actually occurred yesterday. Now, we know there has been a long and ongoing investigation into election fraud and the state of elections in Fulton County, Georgia. Fulton County leads, of course, to the rest of the state of Georgia. Back in April 17th, a grand jury subpoena was sent out to the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections, and that appearance notice was for yesterday in the U.S. District Court in the Northern District of Georgia. So let me just repeat that. A grand jury summons went out to the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections for an appearance before a grand jury yesterday afternoon. The Department of Justice prosecutors have obtained this grand jury subpoena by preparing it in connection with the active grand jury investigation and issuing it under the grand jury's authority. So that means that a lot of evidence has already been presented to this grand jury in the Northern District of Georgia. They saw fit to call in all of the election workers, everyone related to the Fulton County Board of Elections and Registrations, and have them come in and ask whatever questions the grand jury deemed fit. So in this case, the subpoena requests that the Fulton County BRE bring in some specific information, documents, and electronically stored information. Remember, they already have all of the ballots, the ballot envelopes, everything else related to the administration of the election. But this information includes details regarding election staff and members of this organization who were currently serving during the most consequential election of the modern era, the November 2020 general election in Georgia. Those records that they are asking to be produced must identify the name, position, function, residential, and email addresses, as well as the personal telephone numbers of these individuals. That tells me that they're looking to see who was placed where during the course of the 2020 election, because if they're going to track various actions which created opportunity for fraud or which led to a stolen election, they're going to need to know, obviously, where to place the blame. Now, email addresses and phone numbers, well, they're also going to want to see the communications of those people, because undoubtedly there would have been some level of external coordination taking place to ensure that certain people were doing certain things and doing certain jobs during that 2020 general election in November back in Fulton County, Georgia. So these records include those who were performing the following functions and duties: the individuals who were assigned to review mail-in ballots, the individuals who were assigned to review voter review on the panel and board, individuals who were assigned to mobile voting locations, individuals who were assigned to transfer results to or from media or the transporting of ballot stock, or media. They also want to know every individual who is employed or contracted by the Fulton Board of Registrations and Elections. They want to know every individual who worked or volunteered for the risk limiting audit, every individual who worked or volunteered for the recount, and individuals who served as precinct managers and assistant managers. Now, many of these people could potentially have pertinent information about numerous anomalies that we've uncovered and discussed on this program several times over the last 6 years. And of course, it's been reported by a couple of select news organizations like the Gateway Pundit that Fulton County did not properly perform their signature verification on mail-in ballots in this county. And that's according to witnesses providing testimony under oath from then Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections member Mark Wingate during the disbarment hearing for the former Deputy Attorney General Jeff Clark. Now, if you didn't see the testimony, Jeff Wingate also testified that he personally was prevented from viewing chain of custody documents prior to certification of the 2020 election. We've talked about the lack of chain of custody many times when discussing the problems in the 2020 general election there. Both of those issues could potentially be explored by a number of the above witnesses that the grand jury called in to have testify yesterday. Now, considering the fact that the testimony was just yesterday, we're not going to have the information related to what they said. And frankly, we probably won't until indictments drop at the conclusion of this investigation. Now, here, my good friend Brian Lupo, also known as CanCon, shares a bit of video from this testimony right here. He says, testimony today under oath from the Fulton County Registrations and Election Board member Mark Wingate. Fani Willis now knows that no signature verification was done in Fulton County. That is 147,000 ballots that by law were invalid. This influenced not just the U.S. presidency, but also control of the U.S. Senate. Fani Willis at this time still had a RICO case ongoing against President Trump and all the people around him, where she claimed that he had tried to influence the outcome of the election. But we all know that President Trump and his close associates were merely trying to validate the election that was clearly illegal at the time that it was certified. So let's go ahead and hear that testimony from Mr. Wingate.
But the big, what I call the 4 or 5 things that prevented me from certifying was we had such a huge number of absentee by mail ballots, and those ballots, we as the department and the board, and then the board of commissioners who has to approve, certain expenditures. Because it was, becoming very clear that there was going to be a larger amount of absentee by mail ballots this election year by far than in previous years. So they determined a system that is called Bluecrest. And the Bluecrest platform primarily was an absentee by mail or a paper ballot processing application. And that would, scan in the outer oath envelopes. It would open them. It would then pull them out. It would flatten them, as they call it, and then put them in bundles for, for later processing and scanning. Part of that, or one of the applications or elements of that Bluecrest platform, was an electronic signature verification component. And of course, we all, as that was reported, we all thought that was going to be up and running, and how, how exactly that the department of people there for managing the absentee by mail ballot processing would have a very fine function in the electronic signature verification component. Well, as I recall, I believe that time frame was in October at the board meeting for October. I had asked the question, where are we with regards to the functionality of the electronic signature verification component? And I was told that the technicians from Bluecrest were in our building that day and that they were working to functionalize the electronic signature verification component.
When you say functionality and functionalize, what's the plain English meaning of that?
Meaning getting it to work.
Thank you.
If that makes sense. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was unclear. That they were in there to make the thing work.
Okay.
And, we certainly, as we would let, the board meeting concluded, we went on, but after the fact, we were not told in between that October date and then, of course, about a month later, the election itself. At least I was not told that they did not get it to work. So, somewhere along the line, and I am sorry, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I had asked the question, well, okay, what did we do for signature verification? And the comment I got back was, which frankly at that time floored me, was, well, we didn't do any. And I remember I forget where I was, I was on a phone call, I forget exactly, and I apologize, it's been so long. But, I do remember that comment that, we didn't do any. Now.
So there you go. The allegedly most secure election in American history, and in a state that certainly had a decisive outcome on the 2020 election, and no signature verification was done knowingly. Now, that company Blue Crest, I'd like to know how it was that they got a contract with the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections to place a non-working technology in something so critical to not only the legally defined outcome of an election, but why in the hell were they paid money to deliver a non-working product? There are many people that need to be indicted in regards to the Fulton County 2020 election. Now, if you'll also remember, during the risk limiting audit that was performed by Fulton County, that was subject to a lot of scrutiny by a professor from UC Berkeley. That professor invented the risk limiting audit. His name was Dr. Philip Stark. In a case that we've talked about before, Curling versus Raffensperger, Dr. Stark submitted a sworn declaration to the court that criticized hundreds of thousands of missing ballot images that would have made it impossible to even perform a valid risk limiting audit. Again, they did this audit, it didn't work, and then they presented numbers that simply hand waved all of the actual data that was given as a result of any of this once and twicing over. There were a series of anomalies in that risk limiting audit, and we're not going to go through all of them today, but this grand jury that was looking into this is part of the seizure of all of those documents, ballots, ballot images that happened several months ago, where Tulsi Gabbard was on site, the director of national intelligence, and there was no known motion to quash the subpoena that was filed by the Fulton County attorney, and it only came out once it appeared that they were not going to win. The motion to quash these subpoenas from the DOJ are being called a effort to target and harass the perceived political enemies of the president as he perpetuates his false claim that they stole the 2020 election. That's obviously not what's happening. What we're attempting to do is verify the results of the 2020 election, which we already know are fraudulent, which we already know was illegal at the time that it was certified. Now, the statute of limitations allegedly on these 2020 election crimes, they say it cannot yield any evidence that could result in a criminal prosecution, unless, of course, the actions that took place in Fulton are part of a larger conspiracy. And the subpoena is from a grand jury. This isn't from an administrative judge. This isn't a judicial subpoena. A grand jury, as you likely know, consists of between 16 to 23 citizens that have been impaneled to determine whether or not probable cause exists based on evidence. And they would indict or compel testimony or compelled documents, both of which they have done under federal rules for criminal procedure Rule 17. So that means that the DOJ and the grand jury itself believes that, yes, there actually is a possibility for a criminal indictment. And again, I believe that there will be a criminal indictment. So this is a very big development. Now, we do know that the DOJ is still awaiting a response from the district court in a lawsuit that was filed to claw back all of those election records that were taken when Tulsi Gabbard was on site back in January. The latest ruling had required the DOJ to submit responses to questions from the petitioner, which is, of course, Fulton County itself. That includes whether the criminal investigation was referred to the FBI, when the FBI opened the investigation, and when the DOJ first began drafting their affidavit. Those are questions 1, 2, and 4 from a series of questions that Fulton County was hoping to compel the DOJ to answer. Now, I don't know that the DOJ or the FBI have answered those questions, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at this point because we are much, much further along than I think Fulton County even realizes. Thank you very much to Delana55 for the cookie. Thank you to Sean Joe for 3 cookies. I appreciate you, brother. All right, we also have some information coming out of my former home state of Michigan from Deadline Detroit. A former political appointee of current Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a woman by the name of Faye Baydoun, has now just been criminally charged in a non-profit organization scandal. Faye is a businesswoman in Metro Detroit, a former political appointee of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and she's now facing 16 criminal counts that all have to do with the way that she spent and documented expenses related to a $20 million state taxpayer-funded grant. That grant was meant to be used to establish a business accelerator. Obviously, that didn't happen. Now, at the time of the alleged improprieties, Miss Baydoun was working as the director of the Arab American Chamber of Commerce, and she was also employed as a Whitmer appointee on the governing board of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. The MEDC was tasked by the Michigan State Legislature with administering the Global Link grant. Now, Michigan Attorney General Nessel's office wrote in an affidavit that these charges, which have been filed in Farmington Hills in the 47th District Court, include larceny by conversion, uttering and publishing, and conducting a criminal enterprise. Now, Special Agent Kyle Kolka wrote in the affidavit, instead of using those funds for the legally intended purpose of establishing an international business accelerator, Faye Baydoun used them to pay for personal expenses and then lied when reporting on how she used those funds. Some of those expenses include a $4,500 coffee maker. Who in the hell buys a $4,500 coffee maker? I mean, that must just be some gold gilded coffee. Coffee that's coming straight out of those cats' asses that eat those beans that are thousands of dollars a pound. There was also an $11,000 first-class ticket to Budapest. Now, Faye has retained counsel in a man by the name of Todd Flood. Neither of them have responded to this, but it must be a very bad situation when Governor Whitmer's own Democrat administration is forced to indict one of their own former Democrat political appointees, such as this woman, for having stolen as much money as she has. So Faye Baydoun is not going to come out the other end of this smelling like roses. Gotta love it. All right, we also have another announcement coming from the Department of Justice. This time, the notification was sent to Fairfax County, Virginia, and Commonwealth Attorney Steve Descano. This is the initiation of a federal investigation into the plea bargaining practices by the Commonwealth's attorney. Also, they're looking at his charging decisions and the sentencing policies that the Commonwealth attorney has engaged in. Now, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division under our gal Harmeet Dillon is investigating whether or not the Office of the Fairfax Commonwealth Attorney has discriminated against U.S. citizens. What has been happening is they've been offering pretrial treatment only to illegal alien criminal defendants, essentially going after American citizens to the fullest extent of the law, as if the judicial and justice system is fair and impartial, but then giving a free pass to illegal aliens. Now, if we take a look at this comment from Harmeet Dillon, she says, under my leadership, the Civil Rights Division will not allow local prosecutors to pick and choose winners based on their immigration status. This investigation will uncover whether this prosecutor is putting the community at risk in offering sweetheart deals to illegal immigrants charged with serious crimes. Now, we do know that the Commonwealth of Virginia is one of those sanctuary areas. Take a look at this. Fairfax County Commonwealth Attorney Steve Descano offered a reduced rape charge. Now, should have been up to life in prison, but Alberto Ruiz Mendoza was instead given a charge of assault and battery for the brutal rape of an American citizen. Mendoza now is walking free as a result of the charging decision by Steve Descano's office. His sentence and time was 90 days. And guess what? He didn't serve a single day. His entire sentence was suspended. There was also a gun possession charge by an illegal alien that Ruiz Mendoza should have gotten because he brandished a firearm in the commission of this rape against an American citizen. And apparently there was also another charge that he could have gotten, which was threat in writing. But of course, because they don't charge illegal aliens in the state of Virginia, they only charge Americans, Descano's office let him go essentially with absolutely nothing at all. So the lesson here is that if you're an illegal alien and you come to the United States of America and you just want to rape, rob, pillage, maybe murder a couple Americans, you might as well go to Virginia because they're going to go easy on you. Not going to happen anymore because Steve Descano is definitely going to get his just desserts from the Department of Justice. Thank you so much to G. Fontes, who says, Katie Porter, her minivan with 200,000 plus miles, huh? Is she financially illiterate, thrifty, and making the sacrifice, or has she pissed away her dollars in California and D.C., the most costly place to live in the USA? That may very well be likely. Tricia says Blue Crest is owned by Platinum Equity. That company is majority owned by Tom Gores, who owns the Detroit Pistons. He conveniently donated to both parties. Well, that's what they do when they don't want to have any questions made about what it is they're up to. All right. Now, we also have another announcement coming from the Department of Justice. This time, a set of Ohio brothers are going to prison for a $21 million fraud scheme. These two boys were from Ohio, and what they did was pose as Middle Eastern royalty. They were sentenced yesterday for their role in this series of fraud schemes. All told, they got away with $21 million. Prosecutors say that it was carried out with the help of a former East Cleveland mayoral aide. Their names are Zubair and Muzamil al-Zubair. They're roughly 42 and 31 years old. They were both sentenced to 55 years total, but 24 and 23 years respectively. Now, the judge overseeing this case said to them, you stole a lot of money, defrauded people, and put East Cleveland in a terrible light. You basically flaunted it by driving around in a Rolls Royce and taking private planes. Now, the mayoral chief, or the chief of staff, rather, for the mayor that the pair bribed, a 56-year-old by the name of Michael Smedley, was also sentenced to just over 8 years behind bars because he provided these brothers with the cover that they needed to carry out this series of schemes. These schemes took place between 2020 and 2023. Authorities have proven that the brothers built a facade of extreme wealth and elite connections. Zubair falsely claimed to be married to a UAE princess, and Muzamil claimed to be a hedge fund manager based solely on watching videos on YouTube. This is Zubair al-Bazair, one of the two Ohio brothers right here. They had a lavish lifestyle based upon the money they were taking in from this fraudulent schemes. Yes, they did use private jets. They purchased luxury watches. They had a fleet of high-end vehicles. They owned dozens of firearms. And, of course, they also had a custom gold-plated AK-47, which is, to be honest, something I've always wanted myself. It's why I put that in the introduction video. But of course, I can't afford a gold-plated AK-47. They also would charter private jets for both domestic and international shopping trips. They would go to places of the rich and famous like Aspen, Miami, London, Bucharest, and Madrid. Prosecutors say that over the years, the brothers carried out multiple schemes. They would steal money and property from victims. That included Zubair's former girlfriend, who actually was from the UAE. She lost $737,000. This is Muzamil al-Zubair right here. Another major scheme they had involved them bilking a Chinese investor out of nearly $18 million. They falsely claimed they owned an industrial complex, and they would bring a cryptocurrency business to the site. To facilitate the crimes that they committed, prosecutors said that the pair corrupted Smedley by bribing him with expensive gifts and meals, also cash, and they also gave him Cleveland Browns suite tickets. They gave him prized Japanese Wagyu beef, cigars, trips to upscale dining locations, and promises of future employment. In exchange, prosecutors said that Smedley abused his position with the city so that he could assist the brothers. He was also accused of attempting to secure state funding for their businesses, providing official city letterhead, issuing them police credentials, and formally appointing Zubair as an international economic advisor for the city of East Cleveland. This is the inside of one of their private jets that they used to take these trips to the various cities that I mentioned earlier. Now, this was a trial that went on for about 2 weeks. All three of the men were convicted by a federal jury of conspiracy to commit bribery involving programs receiving federal funds, conspiracy to commit honest services, wire fraud, and violations of the Hobbs Act. Hobbs Act conspiracy, rather. The brothers were additionally convicted of multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and theft of government funds. Zubair was additionally convicted of willful failure to file tax returns, which is what they always get you when they want to just drive the knife in and twist it at the very end. But very good news. S. Boosin, oh, thank you so much, hon. She says, to kick off Zak's gold-plated AK fund. Thank you. And Kitsko reminds me, Lisa's honeymoon trip fund. Thank you very much for that. Do appreciate it. I've been trying to get Lisa to get our passports because if you get them this year, you get President Trump's picture. You get a special America's 250th passport. And there's also a signature of Donald Trump inside the passport. All right. Now, also big news, financial crimes coming out of Boston and the FBI Boston office. They initiated an investigation resulting in charges against 30 individuals for their role in a global insider trading scheme. This netted them millions of dollars in illicit profits. Now, arrests took place in Alabama, California, Florida, New Jersey, and New York. These individuals were accused of capitalizing on confidential information that was stolen from leading corporate law firms that were advising on mergers and acquisitions in Massachusetts and other states. Two of the subjects who have been indicted are located in Israel and Russia. They are currently actively being sought. We're going to read a little bit more about these 30 individuals, but just to give you a little taste of who these people were, we're talking about corporate attorneys, financial professionals, people who were really, really high up in the financial and business world. So these charges that were unsealed today are part of a large-scale, decade-long insider trading scheme which netted tens of millions of dollars in illicit profits. These corporate attorneys and financial professionals are alleged to have stolen and used confidential information on nearly 30 merger and acquisitions deals from several of the nation's premier law firms, including a firm that was headquartered in Massachusetts. 19 defendants were arrested today. They will make appearances around the country in Los Angeles, California, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and New York. Those two defendants located in Russia and Israel are considered fugitives and wanted by the FBI. I won't name all of these people, but their names like Gavriel Silverstein, Yisroel Horowitz, and Mark Fensterzaub. So just fill in the gaps on all of those. So the two that are facing that need to be extradited or considered to be international fugitives, Milik and Zinski. Noel Milik and Stefan Vinsky. They are the ones who are, they were charged with obstruction of justice in addition to the charges of making false statements to law enforcement, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, one count of money laundering. Also, again, security fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. The other 9 defendants have been charged with securities fraud. Those were also unsealed. Anyways, the statement from the FBI: our country's financial markets and professional firms should be free from the rampant fraud and breaches of duty that these charges allege. The trading on unannounced financial news alleged here not only violated securities laws, but it also took advantage of the special access and ethical duties that come with a law license. If the American people believe that trading is only for the connected, they will keep their investment and retirement savings out of the market, which will hurt our economy. Today's charges, the results of years-long investigation with our law enforcement partners, are part of my office's ongoing efforts to ensure a level playing field for all investors. With today's arrests, these people have been dismantled. A large-scale, decade-long, international organized criminal network of corporate attorneys and financial professionals who are accused of stealing and trading on material that was non-public information from several law firms, not just gaming the system. It's a federal crime, they said. Anyone who engages in insider trading fundamentally undermines the trust necessary for our financial markets to function, and the FBI is committed to ensuring that those markets are a level playing field, not just profiting when you have friends in the know. So anyways, again, lots of lawyers, lots of financial professionals, people who have committed major breaches of their ethical duties, and it goes on and on and on. Now, what are they looking at? Well, people looking at these Title 18 security fraud charges face up to 25 years in prison with 5 years of supervised release and a fine of $250,000 or twice the gain or loss, whichever is greater. So if we're talking about tens of millions of dollars that was stolen from the financial system based upon these insider trades, they're going to have a lot of money that they need to pay back. Most of these charges are for around 25 years in prison. Some of them are for 20 years in prison, some just a little bit less. But I think it's safe to say that many of these people are going to be spending decades in prison, if not the rest of their life in prison. And it is just so good to see people getting in trouble for this sort of thing. And I wanted to give a big shout out to the Department of Justice and the FBI for their work they're doing. All right. Now, before we continue, I have one more brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, I got a quick question for you. It's an important one. How much control do you actually have over your money right now? Because technology is changing everything, and it's definitely changing the way that money works. Crypto started out as a niche, but now it's pretty much mainstream. With crypto, you can do faster payments. You have more control over your cash. There are fewer middlemen in the way. It's not just hype. This is where things are going, and that's just the way that it is. And getting started today is a lot easier than you might think. And this is where Rumble Wallet comes in. Because with Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin. You can hold dollar-backed stablecoins. You can even own digital gold that's backed by real gold. You can do it all in one place. And the setup is super simple. It connects with MoonPay, so you can then use your debit card, credit card, or your bank account. You'll be up and running in minutes. You can start small, $10, $50, $100. It's not really about the amount. It's just getting in early and understanding what's coming next. And then once you're set up, you can use it, more importantly, to tip your favorite creators on Rumble, people like me directly. There won't be any money that's taken off the top. A vast majority of that donation goes right to the channel. So right now you can scan that QR code, or you can click the link in the description on Rumble, or you can download Rumble Wallet directly from the App Store on your device. You can also head to wallet.rumble.com, and from there you set up your wallet, you log in with your Rumble account, you tap buy, and you're in the game. So take control of your money and get started with Rumble Wallet today. Thank you very much to Rumble and to Rumble Wallet. All right. So thank you again to the FBI Boston office. Now we have another announcement from the U.S. Department of Justice, this time in the Northern District of Ohio. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the case that we just went over. All right. Now, we have a bit of good news coming from the Supreme Court of the United States. As you know, that the Voting Rights Act decision by the Supreme Court mandating that Louisiana redistrict their congressional districts because their current map was based on an unconstitutional scheme was challenged by a group, a civil rights group that was hoping to stop the motion from going through. Very quickly, the Supreme Court has denied that group's motion to recall that redistricting judgment. So this is going to go forward, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. What's interesting is that although the initial decision was 6-3, this new decision from the Supreme Court denying the civil rights attempt to stop the redistricting from happening was a 9-0 decision. Even the liberal justices voted with the entire court. And that might have something to do with the repeated smackdowns that Ketanji Brown Jackson and these other liberal justices have received because they continue to open their mouths when they shouldn't. Now, of course, based upon that decision, Virginia Democrats are also very, very worried that their attempts to gerrymander their congressional map are not going to go through. We've already talked about the likelihood of Virginia's new congressional map being placed into action. And this is now currently before the Virginia State Supreme Court. It does not look like the Virginia Democrats are going to be successful. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip right here because it is of the Democrats who want to see this happen. Dan Turrentine, I believe he is a Democrat in favor of the redistricting. Sean Spicer used to work in the White House, of course. But Dan Turrentine is saying that he thinks it's now less than 50% that the court will let the certification go through. I think it's even less than 50%, especially now that we've had numerous decisions from the Supreme Court of the United States, which is, of course, a higher court than the Virginia State Supreme Court.
Well, I talked to some of those same people yesterday, and what I was told is they now think it's less than 50% that the court will let the certification go through. And what really triggered it, they said, was when the court didn't rule by Friday afternoon. The time they don't believe is on their side. And what apparently transpired over the weekend, and this person would know, they're in contact with the people I'm about to say, is that the governor's staff is now snipping at the Senate Majority Leader and House Speaker that they warned them last fall this would not pass legal review.
Well, that's too bad. I am very excited about the prospect of them being handed a major loss. I mean, the fact that they've already stopped this from being put into practice, it was not good for them in the very beginning. And, of course, the language that was used in the question on the ballot was extremely vague. So I do not anticipate that Virginia will be successful in attempting to redistrict. And I do believe that the Department of Justice is going to directly ask them to redistrict, but it's going to be not in their favor. Now, we've also had a word coming in from South Carolina. The South Carolina State Legislature's House Committee has just voted in favor of redistricting their maps based upon the decision by the Supreme Court. This is going to be done before the 2026 midterms, and the new map in South Carolina is likely going to result in 7 seats for Republicans and 0 seats for Democrats, because they're going to have to undo the one Democrat district that they have. I believe James Clyburn, Democrat, who's been seated there for 33 years, his district was intentionally drawn as a majority-minority district. So now that's going to go away. James Clyburn is going to lose his job, and that new district is going to be picked up by a Republican. So that is very, very good news as well. We've also learned that Tennessee is now doing the exact same thing. So early this morning, Tennessee Republicans have debuted their own proposed slate of congressional district maps, which will also eliminate the current Democrat-leaning district, which is centered around Memphis. The push to review these maps in all states was obviously as a result of the decision by the Supreme Court in their new interpretation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court has opined that redistricting, like the judicial system, should be colorblind. That is Texas House Speaker Cameron Sexton. The decision indicated states can redistrict based off partisan politics. But today, Tennessee joins other red and blue states in redrawing their own congressional maps. The Republican-backed map would redraw the lines to create a clean slate of GOP-leaning maps in the South. Other states that we've already talked about include Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and now we can add South Carolina to that list as well. Now, of course, since the current Democrat representative in Tennessee's lone Democrat district, Steve Cohen, is going to lose his job, he's not very happy about this. He was fuming about the fact that Tennessee Republicans are going to be redrawing that map, despite the fact that the Supreme Court of the United States has reinterpreted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Once this map was announced, Steve Cohen came forward and posted on X, "This is insane. It's a blatant, corrupt power grab that could destroy the black community and our entire city's voice." Never you mind that Steve is not black. Not black at all. He's the guy who showed up during congressional testimony several years ago with a bucket of Popeye's fried chicken and was eating it in the middle of the testimony. I don't even remember who was testifying, but it was a tremendous sign of disrespect. Now, obviously, this is not about disenfranchising the black community. This is about enfranchising American voters by removing unconstitutional, racially gerrymandered maps. And, of course, you have a lot of people within the black community who no longer support Democrats because after many years, the scales have begun to fall off. They are no longer buying in to the Democrat lies. Now, we also had great news coming up in the state of Indiana last night. If you'll remember, there were a slate of Rhino, Indiana state senators who refused to get behind President Trump's suggestions to redraw the maps of Indiana. And President Trump, true to his word, went and endorsed a slate of candidates to primary each and every one of those current Rhino Republican state senators. That map in Indiana would have given 9 seats to Republicans and 0 seats to Democrats. Back in December, President Trump had unleashed on these Indiana Republicans. There was a slam dunk redistricting bill that totally would have handed the state to the GOP. It would have crushed this stranglehold that Democrats had previously had on the state. And the Indiana State Senate killed a proposal that the congressional redistricting map would have given major wins to making America great again. There are 40 Republicans in the 50 seats in the Indiana State House. And the bill failed after more than half of the Senate Republicans voted against it, effectively basically just doing what the Democrats wanted them. The 21 Republicans that voted against it are here. I'm not going to read through all of them, but there were obvious attempts by Democrats in a number of states to racially gerrymander districts to push Republicans out. That's why the whole conversation started. And President Trump said this at the time.
Only state is funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide. And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whenever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then you There's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved, but there's a man named Bray as I guess, head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name, Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's, I think, in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him.
Mr. Paine, if I could ask you.
So, yes, it was very bad news for the Republicans that stood in the way of President Trump last night. He said yesterday, good luck to those great Indiana Senate candidates who are running against people who couldn't care less about our country or about keeping the majority in Congress. There are 8 great patriots running alongside long-seated rhinos. Let's see how those rhinos do tonight. Now, obviously, 8 would have been great, but instead we got 5. State Senator Travis Holdman, who has served in the Senate since 2008 and is the 3rd most powerful Republican in the chamber, was defeated by real estate agent Blake Feicher. 80-year-old State Senator Jim Buck was unseated by Tipton County Commission member Tracy Powell after serving in the legislature since 1994. Buck, who was facing his first primary since joining the state Senate in 2008, had the support of Mike Pence, the former vice president and the former governor of Indiana. State Senator Greg Walker was set to retire last year after 20 years in the chamber, but reversed course amid the redistricting fight, where he notably broke down in tears, speaking about his fear for the future of the party if the legislature caved to President Trump's demands. He lost Tuesday to State Representative Michelle Davis. She launched her campaign before Walker decided to run again, but ended up staying in the primary race and won President Trump's endorsement. Elsewhere, State Senator Linda Rogers, who owns and manages a golf course and a home building company, lost her primary to Dr. Brian Schmulzer, an anesthesiologist. And State Senator Dan Durnulk, who represents a district in the northern part of the state near Chicago, was defeated by Trevor DeVries, an insurance broker. But one state senator who drew Trump's ire, Greg Good, actually won his primary Tuesday. Good bested Vigo County Council member Brenda Wilson, who was backed by Trump, and Alexandra Wilson, a network engineer. So if they are successful and they're able to bring in this proposed map for Indiana, you can see that obviously they will lose these 2 districts right there. Let's go ahead and see what CNN thought about it. Should be
state senators who defied him and helped defeat his redistricting effort there last year. Let's get right to CNN's Jeff Zeleny for the latest on what you are hearing and where things stand right now.
Well, John, President Trump has been seeking revenge, and tonight he is getting it. He has had a successful effort in at least 3 of the Indiana State Senate primary races, and one of the Trump challengers has failed. So right now the scorecard that the White House is watching very carefully.
I'm sorry, I said 5 early. It was 7. It was 7 out of 8. It wasn't 5.
Is 3-1, and the Trump-backed candidates is leading in the other 2. What are we talking about here? Why are we talking about the Indiana State Senate? Because the senators, the Republicans who have served for nearly 20 years, each one of them who lost, voted against the president's redistricting plan last.
I want you to look at the margin of victory, too, for these primary challengers. It wasn't 49 to 51. I mean, look at this. You're talking about nearly a 20-point swing here, 61.4 to 38.6.
Last December, they said that they did not believe it was appropriate to redraw those maps. The White House has said, we are going to throw you out of office, and that is what is happening this evening. It was a dramatic campaign, millions of dollars spent.
I also want you to think about what this means as we move into the primaries, because so many people have said, well, what Trump is doing now is going to lose us the midterms. It sure looks to me like people that President Trump supported are doing pretty freaking good.
And the White House is winning this revenge war, if you will, tonight. Only one non-Trump backed challenger, Senator Greg Good, is holding on. His race was a bit peculiar. He was running against 2 people named Wilson, but he is holding on. So for the White House tonight, one bit of good news in this challenging midterm election year, John.
Yeah. Somewhere a political strategist making their money tonight for putting 2.
Oh, yes. People are not doing so well. Let's actually hear from one of those guys who lost his seat after 20 years. Take a look. Take a look at this. This is Senator Travis Holdman. He is obviously not taking it very well. He appeals to the Christian in all of us. Listen to this BS.
How do you feel? Well, I have one lesson for people. Revenge and retribution is not a Christian value. And that's what this was all about. And I'm not bitter about it. It's just a fact. And there's life after serving in the Indiana Senate. And I'm going to find out what it's like. So.
Hasn't had a real job for the last 20 years. Good luck to you there. And, you know, revenge and retribution, sure. But really, it's about the will of the people. And the people said, we don't want you here anymore. So I want you to take a look at these fresh faces. We got a bunch of youngsters coming in to the state government of Indiana. Bunch of good-looking people right here. Central casting. Brian Schmaltzer, he's a real stud. Trevor DeVries, too. Oh, yeah. I love it. These are people who can be in Indiana state government for a good long while. All right. Now, we also have this news coming out of the state of Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy has won his bid in the primary for Ohio governor. Now, I was actually supporting Casey Putsch, but Casey did not do particularly well. Vivek actually won like 83% of the vote. Of course, Vivek is the name. He's been around for a lot longer than Casey. He's not nearly as controversial, but Vivek has had his own controversies in a number of different ways. So Vivek has won, and President Trump had this to say about Vivek's race. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for governor of the great state of Ohio, a place I love, and won big 3 times in 2016, 2020, and 2024. I know Vivek well, competed against him, and he is something special. He's young, strong, and smart. Vivek is also a very good person who truly loves our country. As your next governor, Vivek will fight tirelessly to grow the economy, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, champion American energy dominance, keep our now very secure border secure, stop migrant crime, strengthen our military veterans, ensure law and order, advance election integrity, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Vivek Ramaswamy will be a great governor of Ohio, and he has my complete and total endorsement. He will never let you down. Now, I don't know if President Trump had endorsed Vivek before yesterday, which, of course, was the day of the election. I think ultimately Vivek wants to be president. There's a reason he ran for president against President Trump. That soured him in the minds of a lot of people. But he is an Ohio boy, and so he's got a name for himself in Ohio. The one thing that really bothers me about Vivek is his support for H-1B visas. We've talked about the obvious fraud taking place in the H-1B system. I am completely in favor of a total immigration moratorium. That's not what Vivek is going to do. I will never support Vivek Ramaswamy for president. He may be great for Ohio, may do a great job there. It remains to be seen, but he is most likely going to become the governor of Ohio now after this. All right. Now, also, we've got a little bit of news coming out of my home state of Florida, a fraud case right here that was announced by CFO Blaise Ingoglia. All right. So this man right here, Abbas Rahman, Rehman, stole $2.8 million from the SNAP program. He's not your typical Florida man, but he is going to face up to 30 years behind bars. Blaise said, please know this is not Minnesota. This is Florida. Take a listen as Blaise introduces us to the crimes of Mr. Rahman.
Hey everyone, it's Blaise Ingoglia, CFO of the great state of Florida, here to announce yet another arrest. Abbas Rahman is a scumbag who stole over $2.8 million of taxpayer dollars for committing SNAP fraud. This, as you know, is money that goes to help some of the most needy of people to help them get the nutrition that they need. But we also know that this program is ripe with fraud, and there are a bunch of people taking advantage of it. And in Mr. Abbas's case, outright stealing from the taxpayers. Now, Mr. Abbas will face potentially up to 30 years in jail for his crime, and I personally hope he does every bit of 30 years. But please know this is not Minnesota, this is Florida. If you are going to steal from the taxpayers, you can expect to go to prison for a very long time.
Now, we don't like these type of fraudsters down here in Florida, and I, too, fully expect him to spend the better part of the next 30 years in prison. He is a scumbag. He's facing felony charges of grand theft, organized scheme to defraud, and criminal use of personal identification information. Good riddance. We'll see on the other side. All right, now I have a little bit more election news coming from our friend Peter Bernegger. Peter Bernegger is now looking into the Colorado governor's race. And as you know, Peter was the man to initially identify the phenomenon of smurfing. Smurfing is the practice of using the name of a vulnerable person to funnel ill-gotten gains into the campaigns of politicians, be they Democrat or Republican. Now, Act Blue has gotten the lion's share of attention on this. There's a number of investigations currently ongoing into the practices of Act Blue. They're probably going to get shut down at the end of the day. But that doesn't mean that Win Red isn't blameless in using this type of scheme. So Peter says our team has decided to do a run on Colorado politicians and their campaigns. First, take a look at Victor Marks, who is running for governor. He accepted a contribution from Tom Asmus at 10 Wild Turkey Lane in Fort Collins, Colorado. He accepted another contribution from Tom Asmus at 10 Wild Turkey Lane in Fort Collins, Colorado. But wait, Marks accepted another contribution from Tom Asmus at 10 Wild Turkey Lane in Littleton, Colorado, and another contribution 3 more times. Hold your horses. Marks accepted another contribution from Tom Asmus, and he accepted another contribution from Sherry Asmus at 10 Wild Turkey Lane. Then another from Sherry, also at Wild Turkey Lane. The important part here is that the Asmus family has no idea that their name and address are being used to commit smurfing. They are the victims here of identity theft and elderly financial abuse. We, of course, named these victims Smurfs. With Mr. Asmus well over the age of 65, it's a classic sign of smurfing, where the bad actors are targeting the elderly. That is what their computer bot software is programmed to do. Patriot Mark Cook found these issues within the Victor Marks campaign finance reports. Look at all of them. The whole list of names and addresses with only 3 sheets shown where there are still many more. It's over to $1.2 million that Mark Cook found, which is not kosher, done through smurfing. Out of about $2 million raised in total by Victor Marks so far. So maybe Victor Marks has an explanation. If you are at an event where he appears, you may want to ask him. But make no mistake, what is happening in this instance is smurfing. It's the exact same thing we've identified in Democrat races in the past. Criminal money laundering going into a political campaign. Both Victor Marks and his treasurer are doing it, Peter Bernegger alleges. The platform is facilitating it. They're using computer bots, and they are using Win Red. The president of Win Red is, according to Peter Bernegger, a corrupt man by the name of Garrett Lansing at Lansing. Garrett actually follows Peter Bernegger. Did you know that Garrett, the FBI, raided the Act Blue offices? Yeah, that was because of the work of Peter Bernegger. Did you know that the Texas State AG Ken Paxton filed a civil lawsuit recently about smurfing against Act Blue? That was also as a result of Peter Bernegger. What these cheaters don't know is that they will be under sworn oath on the witness stand in courts of law coming up. Well, I guess now Win Red has been advised. Our new state-of-the-art Smurf Hunter technology is mind-blowing. Corrupt politicians, here we come. Nice work. And he gives a shout out to Immutable Christ and the TV Conspiracy. You can see Mr. Cook's other campaign finance sheets in the retweet. The Smurf Hunter run for Colorado will be coming very soon. We are doing the investigative work the lefty mainstream media used to do decades ago. Now they are just noisy propaganda Americans laugh at. Campaign finance data was obtained from the state of Colorado. Anyone can check the data, and then he calls on a bunch of other people, likely that he wants to take a look at the information. But right here, Mark Cook says Victor Marx is cooked. Oh my God, have you realized that your contributions are coming from entities with false information? Do you know what I found? $1.12 million just in addresses that were the same names and streets, but different cities and states. At least $1.2 million in fraudulent money found in Victor Marx's campaign account. Have you launched a massive investigation yet to find out where all those millions of dollars are coming from? So then he called upon Peter and Immutable Christ to see if they could look at it. Jeff Hunt, have you seen this stuff yet? Text me and let's dive in on this ASAP. I sure could use your investigative and journalistic skills on this one. I got you, mother effer. No wonder you didn't want to talk to me about election fraud and then you blocked me. Well, how well did that work out for you? You messed with the wrong real Tina Peters supporter this time. All data right from Tracer have got the goods. As I said, Victor Marx is a fake. Now you can take a look right here. And it's the same names over and over again. Jessica Grave, Thomas Grave, Patricia Nelson, over and over. Patricia Nelson, Burton Rutherford, all of these are at different addresses. But then you've got Tom Asmus over and over again at Wild Turkey Lane. You've got Carolina Casperson on St. Paul Street. Again and again, the same names, different addresses, different states at different times. These are all going to be fraudulent donations. Yes, Victor Marx is a Republican, which is, again, why it's so important that we call this stuff out when we see it. Victor Marx should not be the governor of Colorado. There are other much better people who are running. Victor Marx is not even his real name. I don't know why you would change your last name to Marx. Cyrus the Great says, how are they framing these primaries as Trump's revenge? It's based on what the people voted for. It's what the people want. Well, it's simply because President Trump told people to vote for these people, and people did. They may have voted for them anyways. It's also entirely possible that, considering that all of those people that I mentioned haven't had primary challengers of any real respectability in decades, if it wasn't for President Trump calling on people to run against them, they may not have had those challengers at all. Principled Enigma says, what's going on has nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with justice. The DOJ is going after criminals that happen to be politicians and politicians in hopes of proving they're criminals. Right. The comment that was made about revenge and retribution was in regards to people having primary challengers. So, yes, in one respect, I can understand why they're saying it's Trump's revenge. I'm sure Trump is actually very happy about what happened. But ultimately, yes, it's about the will of the people. It's about people choosing to vote for someone else because they no longer have faith in the people who have been representing them. Now, we also have great news on the Second Amendment. This, again, coming from Harmeet Dillon's office. They are going to be, of course, working to ensure that the Supreme Court, that the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment all across the entire nation. The top civil rights lawyer believes that President Trump's lawsuit that was filed this week against the city of Denver's gun ban is now very quickly going to lead to Supreme Court decisions which will legalize AR-15 semi-automatic guns, which are legal. They should be legal. However, they were recently banned in Denver, and they've been banned in other places as well. Gun owners and plenty of people who understand gun culture love the AR-15. It's a great platform. It's an American platform, and it shouldn't be illegal anywhere in this country. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon said, we intend to make sure the Supreme Court does just that. Dillon spoke just a few hours after her office filed that lawsuit after the city of Denver over their ban on so-called assault rifles, which is not a real term. It was just made up so that they could claim that an AR-15 is somehow more deadly than any other semi-automatic gun. An assault rifle is not a real category. An AR-15 is what they're called. Now, the ban on AR-15 rifles in Denver, the complaint argues, are owned by tens of millions of Americans. What the city of Denver has done is essentially declared overnight, I don't know how many people own AR-15s in Denver, but I'm sure many, many people do. All of those people became criminals overnight. The complaint also describes the use of that term that I just called out, assault rifle, in Denver's law language as rhetorically politically charged, which is used by anti-gun publicists, and that's exactly what it is. In addition, the suit is citing the 2008 Supreme Court decision of the District of Columbia versus Heller, which held that the Second Amendment protects the right of law-abiding citizens to possess weapons that are in common use for lawful purposes. The Constitution is not a suggestion, and the Second Amendment is not a second-class right. Denver's ban on commonly owned semi-automatic rifles directly violates the right to bear arms. This Department of Justice will vigorously defend the liberties of law-abiding citizens. That was a quote from Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Harmeet Dillon has credited her bosses for giving her the freedom to file lawsuits protecting the rights, the Second Amendment rights of all Americans. I want to thank the president for setting the tone at the beginning of this administration and having an executive order that made clear the Second Amendment is a first-class right in the United States, and Pam Bondi and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche for having fully backed that up. We intend to make sure that the citizens of Denver have the same rights as the citizens of the rest of America. And we do have other cities like this. The District of Columbia has a similar ban. We have sued them already, and we will be absolutely looking for other opportunities, and there are other types of issues as well. Harmeet Dillon explained why she believes the AR-15 will be deemed legal nationwide soon. I think the AR-15 ban is one that kind of really is a low-hanging fruit because the Supreme Court already held in a 9-0 decision in the Smith & Wesson case that the AR-15 is the most commonly owned and operated rifle in the United States. So when you add that statistic to the ruling in the Bruin and Heller decisions, which talk about firearms that are in common use by law-abiding citizens, that leads to the inexorable conclusion that the AR-15 is presumptively legal all across America. Any denial of that right, denial of the right to own it. In fact, the criminalization of that right in Denver is something that is long overdue to be updated, and we intend to make sure they do that. She said differing case law in the federal judicial circuits makes it likely the Supreme Court will be forced to take up the case. There is a kind of circuit split on this issue. The Fourth Circuit has some bad precedent on this issue, and we intend to create some good precedent in other circuits, in addition to what's already out there. And then I think it would be right for the Supreme Court. And the court has really signaled in several opinions where it's going with this, and I think there is going to be a ruling eventually from the Supreme Court that AR-15s are legal for all law-abiding citizens to own and operate. Amen. Thank you so much to Lee Walden. He says, a few years back, I got Trump hat set from WinRed. They continued to charge my account for at least 4 to 5 months before I figured it out how to cancel. Curious if they smurfed me, need contact to see. So no, that would not be smurfing. That would just be them unethically taking monthly donations from you. What smurfing is when they gain access to your data. Like you could have been smurfed after that time, but they may have used your name to donate into the campaign accounts of other people at different times. Once they have your details, they can use your identity to use as a pass-through for money coming from another source. So I would suggest, and I said this when smurfing first came up a couple of years ago, if you've ever donated politically, you should go to both WinRed and ActBlue. You actually go to the FEC, and you can check your name and information to see what donations have been made on your behalf. If you know you've donated at a particular time, you should see that. If you have never donated, then you shouldn't see your name. If you didn't donate at a certain time, but you find out that you have donated, well, that means you've been smurfed. Principled Enigma says the Second Amendment gives us the right to own a 50 caliber machine gun if we can afford to buy one. There are no restrictions in the Constitution. The AR in AR-15 stands for Armalite Rifle. Yes, exactly. Okay, and thank you very much to Shanjo 1, 2, 3 more times. Thank you to M the Painter, who says East Cleveland is a real shithole, very corrupt. Yes, it is, unfortunately. Thank you, Shanjo, for another cookie. This is the MacArthur Park raid. Is this I think this is actually old, unless they did another raid on MacArthur Park. Okay, no, this is new. Thank you very much, Filter Dog. Okay, so 300 federal and local agents doing raids at LA's historic MacArthur Park, where open drug use and the fentanyl fold can be seen on any given day. Multi-month undercover operation, DEA tells me the Sinaloa cartel brings the fentanyl and meth into the area, controlled by the 18th Street Gang, a rival of MS-13. 19 kilos of fentanyl valued at $8 to $10 million already seized in one house raid this morning. Just a few hours ago in the park, I witnessed a young man do the fentanyl fold and hit the ground, go unconscious, OD, and be left with Narcan. Now, several weeks ago, this operation that is obviously currently ongoing began in this area, and the gangs that they mentioned, there were many of them that were rounded up, but obviously there is a lot more activity taking place.
Atención, somos la DEA, Administración para el Control de Drogas.
You gotta love it. Thank you for that, Filter Dog. Appreciate you, homie. Thank you to Sean Joe for another cookie. Thank you to EO2 Dave for a pair of shades. Thank you to Ina for a cookie. She says, thank you, RP. Appreciate you. Moon Baby says, thank you for the news, Zach. I appreciate that. Lizzie B, thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for another cookie. EO2 Dave, thank you for another cookie. And Sean Joe, thank you for another cookie. Okay, gang. We also have a great clip coming from Dr. Marty Makary, and he confirms in this clip that the FDA purposefully lied and misled the American people for the last 2 decades when discussing the importance of dietary fats, and they did this explicitly to help out Big Pharma. During this time, because they were telling people to eat a low-fat diet, people would eat less fat, they would eat more sugar, more carbs, and as a result of that, the FDA had more, Big Pharma had more opportunity to sell more drugs. RFK Jr. has declared an open war on sugar. Sugar is one of the most detrimental things for your body that you can eat. Dr. Marty Makary here talks about this new move and the fact that dietary fats are actually very important. This is one of the reasons, the strange reasons, based upon the information the government was previously giving you, that when people go on a carnivore diet or they go on a high-fat diet, a keto diet, people lose a lot of weight and they get much, much healthier. I love fat. I have so much butter. I have so much tallow. I have so much coconut oil. I have so much olive oil. I put fats on everything. Love it, love it, love it. You will never see me stop.
They suppressed the data for 16 years. 2 other large studies failed to show an association. Finally, the study trickled out in the medical literature. Nobody noticed it. Those on the low-fat group had higher rates of heart attacks. Why? Maybe because when you avoid fat, you have to pound food with carbohydrates and often ultra-processed carbohydrates stripped of fiber and chopped up. It functions like sugar. We created a generation of children with low protein, high carbohydrates, sugar addiction, and burdened with ultra-processed foods. And what did we do as a medical field? Drugged them at scale. Those days are over. We are telling people the truth about food.
Whole milk is another great one. Raw milk, if you can get it. Thank you again to Principal Enigma, and thank you to Delana55 for the can and for a cookie. Appreciate you. All right. Now, let's also talk about another case of political corruption, this time in the state of Washington. The governor of Washington, Bob Ferguson, has just signed an agreement to pay $4,000. He let a former chief strategy officer take a taxpayer-funded flight with him earlier this year. The citizens of Washington, of course, paid for that flight. That's not cool. Glad I don't live in Washington. Talk about a real shithole. That's Seattle. Governor Bob Ferguson conceded this week that he violated state ethics laws, and he agreed to accept this $4,000 fine for giving this taxpayer-funded flight to a former chief strategy officer. Now, this order, which was signed earlier this week by Ferguson, could resolve a complaint with the state executive ethics board that was received last July In that complaint, they allege the governor misused state resources and gave former advisor Mike Webb special privileges. The board is going to consider approving the agreement during a meeting on May 8th, and if they do approve it, Ferguson pays this $4,000 fine. Half will be suspended if he pays $2,000 within 45 days if they accept the stipulations, and he avoids committing any more violations over the next 2 years. Good luck. Doing so would then allow the first-term Democratic governor to avoid a hearing and facing additional fines. Governor Ferguson invited Mike Webb on the State Patrol aircraft because Mike Webb had a meeting in the Tri-Cities on the same day. Governor Ferguson was already scheduled to fly to the same area, but Ferguson knew that there was an extra seat on the aircraft, so he offered it to Mike Webb. But the agreement awaiting board approval states that Ferguson admits Webb's presence may have given the false impression that Webb had some type of role inside the administration. That aide resigned in March, several weeks before the flight, amid allegations that he had created a hostile work environment. And according to an ethics in violation, the quick trip to Tri-Cities was billed at $2,094.68 per hour. Ferguson argued in a written response to the board that he did not use state resources for private gain. The flight in question was not at capacity. The individual's presence did not displace any state employee. It did not create additional cost in terms of fuel, staffing, or time. Although fuel spent is based on weight, and certainly his weight on the aircraft would have made a difference. I digress. The state incurred no financial burden or misuse of taxpayer resources, but the Ethics Board has disagreed, declaring that Ferguson violated the state's Ethics and Public Service Act. If you are a public servant, you must be above reproach. And if you are not above reproach, well, then you must answer to the people. The governor's office has not responded to a request for comment. Please note this is not final until it is signed by the board. The administrative officer for the State Ethics Executive Board has written. And, of course, he has to stay out of trouble for the next 2 years. Otherwise, this may come back to bite him in the ass. All right, now, we've also learned that the government is suing the New York Times. Allegedly, they have discriminated against white men. Not too surprised to learn about this, but the New York Times is making news about itself nowadays rather than making up the news themselves. This is because of their diversity and inclusion policies. They are one of the most influential liberal fake news outlets in the nation, and they're facing this federal lawsuit from President Trump's administration. Allegedly, they have discriminated against an unidentified white male employee in favor of women, blacks, and other non-whites when a paid promotion was at stake. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is not fooling around in regards to this. This lawsuit, which was not covered by the New York Times, but was covered by the New York Post, states the alleged victim claims the Times employees had been passed over for a promotion in favor of a final panel of candidates that included a white woman, a black man, an Asian female, and a multiracial female. And according to the New York Times itself about this suit, the alleged victim claims the promotion of a white man would fail to follow the newspaper's own goals, as described in a 2021 document called Call to Action. A decrease in the percentage of white male employees, whether new hires, existing employees, or those in leadership as appropriate, was a necessary consequence for the New York Times to achieve these results. They did it to themselves, they bragged about it, and now they're going to pay for it. Now, the man at the heart of the issue has been working at the paper since 2014. Last year, he applied for a job as a deputy real estate editor. He did get one interview for the job, but never made it to the panel's interview stage. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's lawsuit claims he is more qualified than the person who received the promotion. The lawsuit seeks to force the Times to stop discriminating against employees because of race or sex and eradicate the effects of its past and present unlawful employment practices. Doesn't matter if you're a black woman or a white man. If your employment is determined based upon those immutable characteristics, that is illegal. There's no way of knowing from the outside whether or not the lawsuit has merit or whether or not, in fact, the man more qualified than the individual who eventually got the seat. However, the newspaper does have an explicit diversity and inclusion program that breaks down its staff and leadership by race and sex. Again, illegal actions. as the news of this lawsuit has spread, a lot of people on social media immediately took to the web to accuse the New York Times of bypassing the man because of the color of his skin. See it time and time again. This is nothing new. The allegations center on a single personnel decision for one of over 100 deputy positions across the newsroom, yet the EEOC's filing makes sweeping claims that ignore the facts to fit a predetermined narrative, the Times has said. Neither race nor gender played a role in this decision. We hired the most qualified candidate, and she is an excellent editor. Well, no matter what, we will certainly learn the truth as the trial begins. All right. Now, we also have some news about a Democrat staffer for Cory Booker. Cory Booker, a senator from New Jersey, he was arrested last year because he brought a pistol into the Capitol without a license. Unfortunately, he saw those charges quickly dropped. He walked away from the incident without any further consequences. There were questions about exactly what he was hoping to do, however. Now, this is quite a surprise, especially given how the Democrat Party is about gun restrictions, how much they hate the Second Amendment, and how much they love gun-free zones. Now, again, these are not things that I am in favor of. However, I do love to point out the hypocrisy of these people when I get an opportunity. In an article published last week, Politico stated that the Justice Department recently discovered the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia chose not to prosecute Kevin Batts in April 2025, about 2 weeks after his arrest. Timothy Lauer, who is a spokesperson for Booker's office, said in a statement that Batts didn't face criminal charges because he did have an active New Jersey retired law enforcement carry certificate. Batts is, in fact, a retired Newark police detective, and he serves as a special assistant and driver for Cory Booker. It is strange, however, because at the time of Batts' arrest, the U.S. Capitol Police said all weapons are prohibited from Capitol grounds, even if you are a retired law enforcement officer or have a permit to carry in another state or the District of Columbia. So we have to ask the question, how is it that Batts got away with this? Because any other random, normal person, if they would have brought a pistol onto Capitol grounds, they would definitely have been hauled in front of a judge and jury. If they were a Republican aide, I would suggest they most likely would have faced charges, or they would have been forced to take some kind of a plea deal. And even if they were also retired from a police force. A Capitol Police spokesperson said the department arrested Mr. Batts on March 31st of last year. He was carrying a pistol without a license outside of his home or business, unlawful activities, possession of unregistered firearm, and possession of unregistered ammunition. But when the U.S. Attorney's Office was questioned by Politico about those last three charges, it referred the outlet to their previous statement about Batts' carry permit. Batts even received $6,000 from donors for a legal defense fund. I don't think he gave that money back. I think he just kept the cash. He got two contributions. One was reportedly for $5,000 from Elizabeth Naftali of Studio City, California, and $1,000 from Patrick Dunnican of Ridgewood, New Jersey. Naftali is a major Democrat donor. She had contributed to past campaigns for Cory Booker. And in a laughable twist, she also purchased artwork from Hunter Biden, who is the, of course, first son of the Joe Biden family. Well, he was the son of the Biden family, not the first son. He was the younger son. The worst part about this, and the only reason I want to bring it up, is because of the double standard. Batts gets away with it, but then similar people who have had similar situations do not get away with it. Back in 2021, the Capitol Police failed to catch a loaded 9mm Glock when it passed through an X-ray screening machine at the Longworth House office building. Jeffrey Allsbrooks, who said he forgot the gun was in his bag, proceeded to walk through security and was gone before they realized that he might be armed, and then the building was put on lockdown. Allsbrooks, who worked for the nonpartisan House Chief Administrative Office, did, in fact, have a concealed carry permit in nearby Virginia, but he was not licensed in D.C. He was questioned, and he was transported to Capitol Police headquarters. He was processed. He was moved to a central cell block, and originally he faced 4 charges: possession of an unregistered firearm, unlawful possession of a firearm, possession of unregistered ammunition, and possession of a large-capacity ammunition feeding device. It was reported that Alsbrook agreed to a plea deal where he was required to perform community service and he had to stay out of criminal trouble for 6 months in exchange for the case being dismissed. As far as I know, he did. But again, the double standard, that's what I have a problem with. All right, now, we also have some information about yet another brain-dead, brain worm-infested, TDS-suffering federal employee who has threatened to assassinate President Trump. This time it is an employee of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. So this employee based in New Hampshire is now accused of threatening to take President Trump's life just 3 days after the last attempted assassination at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And he may not be in jail for too long if he does get convicted. Federal authorities busted 35-year-old Dean Delachey of Nashua, New Hampshire, and charged him with communicating this interstate threat. This is, of course, less than 2 weeks after that guy at the White House Correspondents' Dinner shot a Secret Service agent in the chest with a shotgun. And, of course, we also had a Pennsylvania Democrat Senate candidate who was arrested after threatening to kill President Trump and members of Congress. His name was Raymond Chandler. I never got a chance to talk about that. But Delachey, a mechanical engineer with the FAA, reportedly conducted searches on his computer to try to find out ways to kill Trump, and he used that information to target President Trump. He also used that same information to conduct other disturbing searches, including the percentage of people who want Trump gone, how to get a firearm into a federal facility, previous assassination attempts on President Trump, and the phrase, "I am going to kill Donald John Trump," like a total effing idiot. It's been reported that the Secret Service met with Delachey back in February, and he admitted to making these statements and performing these searches. He also told officers he was depressed, he was in therapy, he regularly drank, and he used marijuana and even other drugs. However, they let him go free and they let him continue working at the FAA. And then, unsurprisingly, his threats escalated. On December 21st, Delachey allegedly used his personal email to transmit a threat across state lines. He sent an email to the White House's official email office. The email had the subject, "Contact for President." And in the body of the email, he said, "I, Dean Delachey, am going to neutralize or kill you, Donald John Trump, because you decided to kill kids and say that it was war, when in reality it was terrorism. God knows your actions and where you belong," unquote. If he is convicted of all these charges, Delachey is going to face up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. He has been assigned a public defender. Well, I continue to enjoy watching people get in trouble for something that should be so elementary. Just don't do this. But these people are completely brainwashed. All right. Now, we also have information about a very, very serious development for illegal aliens across America. This is actually an ongoing story. President Trump early on had the Department of Justice and U.S. Customs and Immigration Services begin to enforce a law which could fine illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, $998 a day for being in the country illegally. I've told you previously about a woman who had received a massive fine. She had been here for a really long time. Well, another woman who's been here for over 20 years illegally and has had 3 anchor babies just got the bill, a $1.8 million fine for living here in the United States illegally all this time. I love it.
Well, as President Trump's mass deportations roll on, his administration is also levying some pretty big fines against undocumented immigrants. One woman says hers was more than $1.8 million. NBC7's Shelby Bremer has her story.
It can often take years for people to adjust their immigration status through legal pathways. And as they wait, the Trump administration has started issuing heavy fines. So one woman in the green card process went to check her mail and found a massive bill.
No criminal record, no issues. She's just been trying to get this fixed for a long time.
That's how immigration attorney William Menard describes his client, who came to the U.S. from Mexico decades ago when she was about 13 years old. She's so terrified right now, she doesn't want to show her face. She's undocumented, but told us for years she had no idea the government had ordered her to leave. When she found out in 2013, she started the process to fix her status with a family full of American citizens.
I have 3 beautiful kids, and they're all in the university. They're good kids. So I can't not be without them.
You might have to be, lady. You've been here for 20 years. You came here illegally in the first place, and you started popping out puppies. Why, in the last 20 years, have you not done what was necessary to become a citizen of the United States? You could have left using the CBP Home app when all of this started, avoiding a $1.8 million bill being sent to your home, but you chose not to. You could have left and you could have gotten immediate reentry based upon the fact that you have 3 children who live here. I don't know what you've been doing for the last 20 years, but you sure as shit could have found a way to get yourself legal.
She's been checking in with ICE as she waits for her case to make its way through the backlogged system. But on Friday, she got this in the mail, a 7-figure fine from ICE. The Department of Homeland Security last year changed its rules to make it easier to find people who are out of status and to increase the amount, up to nearly $1,000 for each day in the U.S. past a removal order.
I was asking myself why this is happening to me when you're trying to do the right thing.
She's not alone. A DHS spokesperson said from when President Trump took office through mid-March of this year, ICE has issued about 65,000 of these fines, totaling more than $36 billion. Our message is clear, the agency said in a statement. Illegal aliens in the country illegally should leave now or face consequences.
They know that these people can't pay close to $2 million in fines. It's not going to happen.
2 women who received...
No, we're counting on it. We're counting on it. We're counting on the fact that she's just going to have to get the hell out. Get on with you. Go back home.
Similar fines filed a class action lawsuit last year, arguing it would drive them into ruinous debt. Menard's client cleans houses for a living.
Is there any way that you could pay that?
No, not at all.
She says the U.S. is the only home she's ever known, but she thinks she understands why she got this notice.
I think just to scare people and to just push them to deport themselves. They want us to leave.
Menard says they do plan to appeal that fine as they wait for her paperwork to be processed. As for the class action lawsuit, there's a hearing scheduled in that case for May 13th. From downtown, Shelby Bremer.
Good luck to you, woman. Go back to Mexico. We don't need you here. All right. Lee Walden says, payback's a bitch, ain't it? Yeah, it definitely is. All right. Now, we also have some news coming out of California. ICE agents stormed a Disney cruise that was docking in San Diego. They arrested multiple workers on the ship in front of stunned passengers. I'm sure this must have been a sight to see. I would have my phone out. Vacationers watched as immigration officials cuffed several employees on the Disney Magic ship as they were being unloaded. Passenger Darmi Mehta took a video of the moment, saying one of those detained was her server during the 5-day trip last month. He was in full uniform, which was a blazer and a tie. Some of the other employees were still in their chef's uniforms with their name tags on. It was really unsettling. Well, again, this is the law, and law means nothing if it is not applied equally. Mehta said she didn't know how he was going to reach out to his family about his belongings. It appeared he didn't get a chance to take him with him. That's too bad. So that was just my big concern. Like, how's he going to reach out to his family? Does the family even know that he's not getting back on the ship today? Probably not, but they're going to find out. Mehta said she witnessed federal agents load the crew members into a white van. 10 crew members from the Disney ship were arrested. Another 4 from another ship were arrested the next day. Several immigration rights groups have been up in arms about the Disney arrests, also claimed that 4 seafarers were arrested on the Holland America MV Zandam cruise ship. This is not an isolated incident, Benjamin Prado from Union del Barrio said. In fact, it has become a growing pattern, not just here in San Diego, but throughout the country. The port said local police were not involved in the arrest. The Port of San Diego Harbor Police Department did not have any involvement in the reported enforcement actions taking place on April 23rd or April 25th at the B Street Cruise Terminal, a spokesperson told NBC San Diego. We did not receive any calls for service related to these incidents in accordance with California law, including SB 54. Harbor Police does not participate in immigration enforcement activities. A maritime attorney told ABC 10 that they obviously had a reason to go there and added that it could have been any number of things. Of course, it's really none of anybody else's business if and when the Department of Justice and ICE wants to tell us exactly why these particular people were arrested. I'm sure we'll learn about that. Just looking for the video. And apparently they did not embed the video. I actually did see the video on X earlier. So as part of today's moment of Zen, we are going to head on over to X and ICE cruise ship arrests. Here we are. Looks like this may be somebody who thought they were going to get arrested as well. So they got they hightailed it out of there. Ese?
Why?
Well, because they're effing illegals.
They're illegal.
They could have been doing anything. They could have been selling drugs. They could have been trafficking kids. They could have been engaging in smuggling.
Why?
But frankly, they don't need to because they were illegal aliens. Illegal aliens. And when you're an illegal alien, you do not have the right to remain here in the United States. We also have another case. This one is just a little bit more aggravating. This is also coming from ICE. This illegal piece of shit was working at a dog shelter in Las Vegas, the Vegas Animal Shelter. And apparently this guy got a job at this animal shelter so that he could exclusively have access to dogs to abuse. DHS did not mince words when they talked about this case. John Young Cotter Johnstone, 38 years old, an illegal alien from the United Kingdom, was taken into ICE custody after local authorities honored an immigration detainer. You see, most people don't like it when you abuse dogs. He's got 4 felony charges of willfully torturing, maiming, or mutilating animals. On April 1st, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department arrested Johnstone following a month-long animal cruelty investigation at Working Dogs of Nevada. Police obtained videos showing Johnstone using excessive shock collars on dogs, including young puppies. He would step on their leashes to violently yank their heads to the ground, and he was literally swinging dogs around in midair by their leashes. A total of 35 dogs were seized from the facility during the investigation, and the same day Johnstone was booked into the Clark County Detention Center, and ICE issued a detainer. Clark County officials cooperated fully and transferred him to ICE custody on April 2nd. Johnstone had entered the United States in 2021 under the visa waiver program, but he overstayed that authorized departure date of February 2022.
For the first time, we're getting a look at Tabitha Barub, one of 2 Working Dogs of Nevada employees arrested for animal abuse. Police say Barub was arrested on 1 count for witnessing an incident involving a dog and failing to intervene. Her co-defendant, John Johnstone, could face 4 counts. Arrest reports say he's seen on video swinging and dragging dogs. The investigation started after a former employee secretly recorded training practices in late February and notified police. 35 dogs were removed from the facility.
Oh, man, I hope that guy gets really, really special treatment. in those facilities. DHS officials said this disgusting criminal tortured dogs at the shelter where he worked. Thanks to the cooperation of Clark County officials who honored the ICE detainer, this freak is in ICE custody. 7 of the 10 safest cities cooperate with ICE. We need more state and local politicians to work with us to keep criminals off our streets and out of our country. Now, I betcha, we're not going to see any freaking bitches popping up in the chat crying about this guy getting arrested. And if they do, then geez, oh Pete's, there really is no hope for them. All right. Now, we are going to end with this right here. Yesterday, I brought you a story of a judge who did the right thing. And I wanted to end the story. I wanted to end the show today with another such circumstance. We have another adult who was found to be committing heinous acts against children. And the judge let him know exactly how she felt about him before putting him in prison for the next 22 years. Take a listen.
Mr. McConvicted of or pleaded guilty to a sexually oriented child victim offense. As such, you will be a Tier 3 registrant for your lifetime with in-person verification every 90 days. Failure to register, failure to verify residence at the specified times, or failure to provide notice of a change in resident address or other required information as described above will result in criminal prosecution.
Just look at her face. She is so done. She hates this guy. She knows exactly what type of an abhorrent, sick, disgusting individual he is, and she cannot restrain herself.
This court is so sick and tired of seeing adults ruin and abuse children. These are literally just one step from being babies. They come to a daycare, those parents struggle so that when they release their children to someone during the day, they have some semblance that that child is going to be protected and safe. Not let alone 2 of their children being raped by your own admission, sir. For sexual gratification, you violated a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I do not know at this time what the total ramifications will be for those 2 young children, but there isn't anybody who doesn't understand now the developmental phases of children take place from 0 to 6 years old. You can't even know what damages you've done for sexual gratification. This to me is so mind-boggling that you used and abused 2 little children like they're inconsequential beings. Those are human persons with human dignity. The mere fact that they're small little people that can't fight off adults, that's why an adult left them with adults. I'm going to tell you something, Mr. McFadden. There's no free rapes in my courtroom. On count 1, I'm sending you to prison for 11 years. On count 4, I'm sending you to prison for 11 years. They will be consecutive to each other for a total of 22 years. You have 32 days jail credit. At this time, the court finds it necessary to protect the public from future crimes, to punish the offender, and to find that consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the seriousness of the offender's conduct and to the danger the offender poses to the public. Folks, if you see it, you smell it, you know it's happening, you report it. These are little children that are the future. I hate to sound so cliche, but the children are our future, and if we're destroying them, we have no future. And this ends in this courtroom.
Effing men. I love it. And Rebel Nader, I know it's a good show if you're satisfied, buddy. So glad you enjoyed it today. G. Fontez, finishing it out over here on Rumble. How many bills, just like the one from ICE, did the IRS send out? I don't know. And probably a lot of those people who got those bills do not want anybody to know about it because they're not intending to pay it, and they might just use it as an opportunity to leave the country. Thank you so much to Delana55 for another cookie, Sean Joe for another cookie. Oh gosh, Filter Dog, says, don't you have a beagle? Yes, we do have a beagle. Muffin, she's a Jacoby, which is a beagle Jack Russell mix. Oh my God, these are the beagles that were saved from animal testing. Beagles are used in animal testing because they're the sweetest dogs alive.
In shock.
First time these dogs are touching grass because they were saved from a facility. They're just so sweet. I love beagles so much. Muffin's a little shorter because she's a Jacoby, but she is no less sweet. She's a little bit more bossy. That's the Jack Russell in her. All right. You guys, before we finish here today, let me remind you of all of the sponsors of the program linked in the description below. And finally, from Rumble, you guys, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, I am telling you, you need to get out there and get some. They got some of their starter kits still available. In those starter kits, you're going to get their bold dark roast. It's smooth. It is nice and robust. Their smooth medium roast, which of course just goes down a treat, and their Vitality mushroom coffee that's going to give you clean energy and laser focus without the crash of regular coffee. It's all made from the highest quality beans you can get. Single origin, small batch, toxin and mold free. Plus, you're also going to get a couple of freebies, their gold spoon clip, their very strong frother, and a very, very nice looking black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. This is for the people who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth it. It truly is. And to find out for yourself, you got to go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab yourself a starter kit before they're gone. You can use that QR code on screen or the link that you're going to see below this video. Thank you, finally, to Rumble. Thank you to my friends over on Pilled. Thank you to my friends over here on all of the platforms. Susan Boosin, or actually, Surter says, just make sure he's in Gen Pop, putting these pedo freaks into PC. Susan Boosin says, Fauci tortured beagles in the sand flea experiments. He had a bunch of really sick experiments for those poor, wonderful, gentle, loving beagles. G. Fontes says, Zach, do you have that judge's name and relative location info handy? I want to write to her. Unfortunately, I don't. It was not referenced in that post. And I don't know the, well, I guess I could probably, I think they actually gave that guy's name. Hold on. Okay, so his name is Mick McFadden. And the judge, it's Judge Branch, Judge Jennifer Branch in Hamilton County. Here, what I'll do is I will share the post, and then you guys can go ahead and write your fan mail to Judge Branch because she definitely deserves it. All right. Thank you to the folks over there on Rumble. Thank you to the folks over here on Pilled. Thank you to the folks on Getter. Thank you to the folks on Twitter. Thank you to the folks on YouTube. I appreciate all of you. Please hit that like button. Help us out by sharing the show. Make sure you're subscribed and you got notifications turned on. But either way, I go live every single Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you're going to be here tomorrow, then I will see you on yet another edition of Red Pill News Live. Until that time, I'm off to have dinner. Peace.